All right. Welcome back to Michelle and Mikki's Performance Podcast. Michelle, I saw you did the rough water, the Waikiki rough water swim, right? It's Waikiki rough water, or is it just the
Yeah.
rough water swim?
No, I'm pretty sure it's called the Waikiki Rough Water
Waikiki. Okay.
Swim.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did it go?
Well, I have stories. It was good. Like overall, I would say, I mean, in a nutshell, it was one of the better years. So like I was telling a couple athletes before we started, like the ocean is like a box of chocolates and you never know what you're going to get, which is very true. And especially with that particular course, like the way that it goes, a lot of times there can be like a really strong head current, like it's called the rough water swim. So like if you're expecting smooth water, like this is not your swim. But, when the wind is light, it can be smooth water. And yesterday we had light wind. Yesterday we actually had a bit of a tail current, which was like a giant shock. And here's the thing, if you're an open water swimmer, this is a tactic that you can use. So all of us beforehand are standing around the beach and there's 800 people ish that do the swim. People, and it's kind of a bucket list, like iconic swim. Like people will come from all over. Like the winner in the last couple of years has been a guy from Australia that traveled over. It was fun for me at Masters. Like Thursday night, there was a guy that like used to swim with us at Masters years ago, and he just like showed up there at the gate, and I was like, oh my gosh, like hi. And he's like, we came back because I wanted to swim the rough water. I actually found a couple of my friends from Arizona from like 30 years ago that I hadn't seen. I like just ran into them like randomly on the sidewalk. I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't seen you guys in forever. And they're like, we came for the rough water swims. It's like those kinds of things. Like, so it is a really big iconic swim, which is maybe one of the reasons why I don't love it as much, because it does have like the big race feel to it. And it's not like the North Shore swims that we do all summer, mostly just like local people. So it's like you and your friends up there, having the race. This is like, there's all these people from out of town, and a lot of them are really good swimmers, like this is, anyway, but sometimes the rough water is really hard. And so we're standing around talking beforehand about like, how are we going to decide what to do? Because what happens is basically you swim about something like 800 meters, 600 meters, I don't know, but it's pretty far straight out. And then there's a buoy and you turn right. And then you're swimming one way across like Waikiki. And sometimes that is the stickiest part, where there's like a really strong head current. And it can be the case that if you're not a good swimmer, you literally are just going backwards. Like it can be really, really strong at that part for like a section. And so I was counseling some of like the newer swimmers from our master's team, like, what are you going to do if you get there? How are you even going to know like which way the current's going? And so little tip, as long as the water's clear and you're doing an open water swim, if the wind is light, like it was yesterday, you can actually gauge the way that the buoy is like being pushed. And that will help you understand if there's a current or not, right? So like if as we're swimming out, and here's this buoy that's going to be like anchored to the bottom of the ocean. And so if it's anchored and the buoy is like pulling way to the left, then like that's a sign, right? That like the water is pulling the buoy that way. And so if that's the case, then it's like what we know is that you cannot just swim straight into that current. I mean, you could, but it would be really hard and slow and not the best idea. So the idea would be turn around, come back in closer to the shoreline and swim more inside. So the total distance then is longer, but it's actually faster to do it if there's a head current. But if there's not a head current, obviously, right, you don't want to swim longer. And so that's what a bunch of us had decided to do, is like, we'll get out to the buoy. We'll see if it's neutral. Like if it just looks like it's anchored, like the buoy's sitting right on top of its anchor, then there's no current. You're fine. Stay on the buoy line, like all the way across. When I got out there, I was like, oh my God, the buoy was actually like pulling to the right, which is the way we were going. And I was like, okay, then we have a tail current.
Yeah.
I was like, this is brilliant. So I was like, you don't have to go in at all, just like get in a group and stay there. Yeah, it ended up being like a pretty fast year. It was a year where like you hate to call it easy, because it wasn't easy, right? It's still like little shy of 2.4, but like pretty close to an Ironman distance swim. And like, you're working hard, so it's a challenging swim regardless, but it could be so much worse than what we got yesterday. So like at the end, there were a lot of people who were really happy, who were like, this was great. Like they swim really fast. And so like I swam 101, happy enough with that. Like that's about what I would have thought, like given the conditions.
It's great.
I think we were pretty far out. I was with a group, and I was happy to be with a group. And it was so funny because people were like, this is the first ocean swim I got to do since my eyes were fixed, right, where I could see really well. And so you would think that would mean I would like do my own sighting or whatever, but I totally didn't. Like I got in a group and I was just really happy to stay in this group. And so, we're swimming along and we hit like the first yellow buoy and then the second yellow buoy. And those were just marker buoys. They weren't like, you didn't have to go around them. You could swim anywhere you wanted,
Mhm.
right? You just had to hit the two end buoys. And the first two we were right on. And then like, I don't know, I stopped paying attention. And before, I think it was like the fourth or fifth one of the last ones, we were so far out, Nikki. We were like so point, like I'm breathing to the right, in which like, so we were way outside where that yellow, and I saw the yellow buoy like pretty far away from us. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, we really did that wrong. And I was kind of like, well, you know what? Like, I'm happy in this group. But I think everybody figured it out at the same time because the whole group like literally just did this
Yeah.
like beeline to the right, like head over, find the buoy. But yeah, no, like overall it was fun. I will tell you though, like how fast that swim is. I swam 101 low. I was like 279th or something like that overall, right?
That's
Out of
fast.
800
Yeah.
something people, so it's just like there are 270 something people that swam. I mean, probably 250 people that went under an hour on that
Wow.
day. And the fastest people, like I remember it back in the day, like it was, I don't want to say it wasn't that hard to win your age group, but like I could win my age group 10 years ago. I won my age group there. Now, even the older age groups it was 52, 50, like the women that were 60 to 64, there's a 51-minute effort to
Wow.
win the age group, 60-year-old
Wow.
woman. And so my friend who was from Arizona, I doubt anybody is listening from Arizona, but if you are, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. I got out of the water like, and the thing is, you have to like, yeah, like so I've been working as hard as I could for an hour, and then you get up and you're running on like deep sand, for not that long, but it's like long enough. You're running to get to the timing mat, and so as soon as you cross, you're like, right, and I'm in that state still of
Mhm.
like I was 3 seconds across the line,
Mhm.
and she's like, my friend from Arizona, Michelle, I swam 52. Was just like, my hands are on my knees. It's just like,
That's
congratulations. You know,
yeah. Like,
I was just
thanks.
like,
How,
wow. I mean, it was really a fascinating, and the reason that I share that is because it's so like not Hawaiian style and not like
mm,
in my like current peer group
yeah.
to like I feel like I have a lot of really fast friends here, like friends who are way faster than me swimming. And they win everything all the time. And they take it in stride in a way that's like humble might be the word. Like where if you talk
It's
to them, you would never know like that they were a
yeah.
badass. And then like they
Yeah.
go and they do really well. And you're like, oh wow, I had no idea like she was that fast. And like, but like it made me realize because like literally this woman didn't stop. I finally
Yeah.
just was like, okay, I gotta go.
Yeah.
It was like it made me think like if you're in your 60s and still like just absolutely obsessed
Mhm.
with like what I
Like
want to do is be like are you focused on like how was your process and how was your your mindset when you were doing it? Did you feel like you were swimming well? Did you feel like you were stretched out? Did you feel like your core was connected when you're swimming? Like were you happy? Did you like look around at all? Did you and I
did you
feel
have
like it's still
fun?
possible to like do well. Yeah, like did you enjoy and the thing is, like, it really brought like I remember because like this is a woman that like I trained with when I was in my 20s and she was in her 30s. And now here we are, like I'm in my 50s and she's in her 60s. And I remember thinking while I was out there, like I was working as hard as I could. I was enjoying myself. And I had the thought halfway through, like, this is my life.
Mhm.
Right. This
Yeah.
is what I get to do.
This is who I
I
yeah,
get
yeah,
to
yeah.
drive for a half an hour and like be in this beautiful place and like get to do this and it's so cool. And and I'm like grateful to like have the health to be able to do it and to like know a lot of people there and have it be social and fun and like and if
Yeah.
you win, great. Like that's like cool. But like even if you don't,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's so much value like to doing it. And like I don't know, I just felt like um I felt like I'm grateful that my local group here is less obsessed with that kind of thing. Especially because it was like we had a tail current.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so
Yeah.
everybody went fast yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, anyway, I don't know. It just was an interesting juxtaposition to me about like, and I wondered, like, I mean, she's clearly got longevity if she's still doing it, like at that age. But I just kind of feel like the pressure that you put on yourself, like, so what happens? What if you would have swam 54?
Right.
Like, you know,
How
would
would you
you
be
have been like
devastated? Yeah.
devastated? You know, like, are you sad then? You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
It
yeah.
was an interesting dynamic
Yeah. Yeah. And I
at
don't
the
want
end.
to talk too much to provide too many generalizations. I don't know where this person is from in Arizona, but there are definitely places in Arizona where the vibe is not, it's like the opposite of Hawaii vibe. And I think I can say that
Yeah.
because I've spent a little time in places in Arizona, and I've spent 3.5 years in Hawaii doing my PhD. And yeah, um, the vibe in Hawaii is very chill and laid back and like community and experience and
Yeah.
appreciation, right? And in Arizona, certain places in Arizona, it does not seem to be that way, right?
Yeah.
It's a
It
one
was
up
such a,
men, and yeah,
that's
yeah,
what it was. I mean, and I just thought, wow, I think that if I was still in the mindset of that sort of like perform or else, or like
driving, yeah,
the
yeah, like a
striving, it felt like, and the thing is, and I don't know, like maybe it still is very healthy striving, like on this, but I feel like I'm understanding the difference between like healthy striving and unhealthy striving. And I feel like it was a good reminder for me that the majority of like my peers here in Hawaii are on the humble, healthy, striving path of like,
yeah,
we do this because it's fun. And here's the thing, like they're really fast. So it's not like, I think where people maybe sometimes think is that like, oh, well, if I'm not striving
I'm
like as
not,
hard as I
yeah,
can or in like a really unhealthy, obsessive way, then that means I'm not going to be able to perform well. And
that's
like, there's not evidence that that's true,
no,
right? Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of evidence that when you are relaxed and happy and like just
letting
pursuing your
go,
craft and like
yeah,
trying, yeah, and like trying to
yeah,
perfect your craft, really, then it's like that's where your good performances are going to come. And like the time just like is what it is.
yep,
Anyway, yeah,
absolutely. No, I totally
that
agree. Yeah,
was an
yeah,
interesting observation for me.
yeah, I bet.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
on to our topic of the day.
yes,
Like in a big picture way, what Mickey and I want to talk about today is like if you're an athlete and you're training regularly, consistently, with purpose, with intent, like are you getting the most from your training? Right? Like, are you and like, A, how do you know if you're getting the most from your training? If you don't think you're getting the most from your training, like why is that? Who are the type of people who are getting the most from their training? What habits and practices do they have in place that allow them to do that? And maybe this conversation then will help give you like some insight or some ahas into
yeah,
how to
yeah,
improve. And so I'll
yeah.
start with this, and because it'll just be an interesting thing for us to riff on for a little bit. I remember this is probably a decade ago. It was a while ago. And me reading a quote from um, a, a well-known coach who is really good. Like I would say, like I had a lot of respect for this coach. Like he's a good athlete, he's a good coach, and with a lot of longevity. And it was like within a conversation online, like it used to be when Twitter was cool. Like, well, I'm dating myself, right? But like that, so over 10 years ago. But like when you could watch the conversation between like smart people on Twitter, right? Where they would write back and forth. And so you would just watch the conversation and be like, what are they talking about? And it felt like it was cool. Like you could be a fly on the wall, like
Hmm.
watching these people interact and trying to understand like
Hmm.
what are they saying. And these coaches were talking about athletes improve like doing training that they're improving from. And then another coach wrote in and said something about it was sort of, I wouldn't say like making fun, but like it was sort of a derogatory comment, but like, yeah, like so many athletes just like all they do is go make themselves tired,
Mm,
right? Like you're just making yourself tired and you think that that's the way.
right,
But then like there wasn't the follow up on that. Cause at the time I was like, oh, tell me more about that.
right.
Right. Like what's the difference between like, because somehow in my mind, I definitely still had it that like, and I still do to some degree, that like there will be key training sessions that are going to leave you tired. And so like I really wanted to understand, what does this coach mean? It seemed like he was against like making yourself tired
Mm.
because it wasn't aligned with the goal of making yourself better. But like in my
Mhm.
mind, I'm like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like a lot of like,
Mhm.
it can be the case that training that makes you tired results in at some point making you better. And so I feel
Mhm.
like if we want to riff on that, because I feel like now I
Yeah.
understand that in a way that I
Yeah.
didn't 10 years ago. How would you interpret that statement? Is your training and we can phrase it like this: is your training making you better, or is it just making you tired?
Right. Yeah. I mean, yes, and I totally agree. I would have wanted to know what that coach meant as well. I I mean, from my own experience, I did like to be tired. I really
I
did.
liked it
Right.
too.
Yeah. So,
I think we were probably trying to escape something else. It's
I
just
mean,
like why
maybe
we like
I
to
mean,
be
just
tired.
there are some athletes that want to do, like, let's for example, Ironman, because that's what we're most familiar with in terms of like really racking up fatigue, that want to do Ironman for the pure, like, I did an Ironman, right? Like the one or two and done, or maybe they do a few, and they actually don't like to be tired. And so there is a component of Ironman training where you will be tired, right? Most likely. However, I do think the training should be making you better, whether that's faster, stronger, more efficient, getting to the line faster than the last time you got to the line of the same course, right? Different courses, different conditions, or yeah, making you a better athlete. And so I agree with that coach. Like there are athletes that I think, either are training for because they're obsessed with the fatigue and they think more is better. More can be better, but it depends. We'll get to that, right? And the athletes that are, I'll use the phrase like winning training, right? Versus winning or performing in races. They're winning their training. And for some athletes that don't maybe care so much about the race results, that's fine, right? If they're having fun and they're winning their training, then like, okay, who am I to say that's the wrong approach? I think a lot of the folks that are obsessed with Strava and Strava stats and like they're winning Strava, right? And winning their training. But are they improving in the races? I don't know. I mean, that's maybe not as easily seen, in terms of big data analysis. But yeah, I mean, I do think there's a component of some culturally, right? Like that more is better, big training hours are better. But in my opinion, that's only better if you can absorb it and it's making you, faster, fitter, more efficient, stronger, right? Because if it's not, then it's just breaking you down and you're showing up to whatever race you have in a state that's suboptimal, quite honestly, than what you would be if you had just taken your training, done smarter training, right? Or found the amount of the stress of the training that was appropriate for you to absorb, because it's a stress
Yeah.
absorption response that that results in fitness increases, right? Or faster, stronger, whatever you want to, however you want to
Mhm.
define fitness. But yeah, but can you absorb the training? Are you absorbing the training? How do you know if you're absorbing the training? I mean, what are your thoughts there? I have some ideas on how I would, think about that and address that for certain athletes. But what do you do for your athletes?
Well, I mean, first, I just want to go back and
Yeah, sorry.
state that, like, I used to think that doing training, like, I mean, I knew the training, the stress cycle, right? Like apply stress, recover from stress, and then like get better. I absolutely, and I know I'm not alone. The reason that I'm admitting this is because I know I'm not alone. Like I know there are people listening to this who are still like in this mindset that doing the training is what makes you better, right? Like, and so I'm like, as long as I can do it, I'm going to get better from it. Like I absolutely believe that to be the case. I also won a lot of my training, and it was rare that I won in races. Like I would be like I was in that category for a long time. So yeah, like the whole idea of like, you're just making like I for a long time really equated being tired with getting better. Like I just thought that it was inevitable if you trained enough to make yourself tired that you were going to get better. And I think that in some cases that's actually true. Like maybe for younger people or like when you're kind of new to it, it's more like for after you're when you have more experience. And that could mean that you're older, you're an older body, so your body needs more recovery. Or it could just be like you have a really long training history, right? So like at that point, then just making yourself tired like isn't the way. But yeah, I feel like now the way that I frame things when I'm looking at like a training cycle as a whole or a week as a whole, like when I'm writing out a week for an athlete or myself or whatever, I'm really thinking in terms of like where are the key sessions, and I want to be fresh enough for those key sessions most of the time. Sometimes it's like, okay, I'm going to try to apply load in a way that's going to allow you to carry some fatigue into that run, because like I want you to actually feel that fatigue, because like if you're going to be doing a long race and like it's it would be like I do think that it's possible to, if you never encounter fatigue in training and your brain doesn't know how to like really manage it, then when you
Mhm.
experience it in a race, you don't have the skill to like pull yourself through that or talk yourself down from like, uh-oh. Here's the thing that's going bad. Now what do I do? I've never experienced this before. So I do think that like suffering in training and pulling yourself through that at times is really appropriate. And the difference now is that I understand the required rest that needs to come after you have like gone to that place on purpose, instead of like trying to live there through the whole training cycle.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, so if you do
Yeah.
like a whole, like your whole training cycle, if your goal is to be like, I'm going to train as much as I can so I can be as tired as I can, because that's what's going to elicit like the biggest training response, like that's where the error is. It's like you have to give your body the space and time to recover from it, so that
Mhm.
when you go into the key workout again, you have the capacity to push the power that you're meant to push,
Mhm.
or run up the hill like with some pep in your step,
Yeah.
or hit the send offs on in the swim intervals or whatever. So yeah, it took me a while, but as soon as then I understood like absorbing training, like doing training does not necessarily mean that you're
No.
absorbing the training. Doing the training does not mean you're automatically going to get better from the training. And the mindset there can be so frustrating, because when you do the training, but you're not absorbing the training, you go into a race thinking, I deserve to have a good day
Right.
today, right? Because I
Yeah.
earned this. Like I trained 22 hours a week for the last 8 weeks in a row, right? Like I'm as durable as they come, and I absolutely deserve to have a good day. And then like when it doesn't happen, the devastation is it's 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 real and it's earned, because you're like, I don't understand like what just happened. You're
Right.
like, oh well, um, you need to be fresh in order to allow your body to like compensate from the load that you're applying.
Yeah, I see it a lot more frequently, I think. Now I will preface this by saying that I think I've been coaching some folks for 14 years, and so we've all aged together. So I
Yeah.
would say I do have some
Same.
younger athletes, but I am seeing more of this struggle in my master's athletes, because they remember I used to train X amount, and I got super fit. But the key component is like, yeah, but when you were 34 or 24 or whatever, however, that's a whole nother topic of like people using ages, and ages really don't mean a whole lot anymore, right? I mean, it really is hormone status. What's your hormone status? And, when did you transition? And if for men, right, like there's a slow decline and reduction of testosterone. For women, it's perimenopause, menopause, and there seems to be a fairly big fall off in terms of the slowdown, right? Or but bringing it back to here, your ability to absorb the training. So it's not just age; it really has it's more complex. However, and there's underlying health, which we'll probably touch on. So the issue is like, well, I'm training, maybe I've modified a little bit, but I still expect to be able to train the way I used to or somewhat similar, and therefore I'm going to make the same progress. But the key component is they're not absorbing the training as they used to. You have to, and there are ways to tweak it. And this is getting a little bit off topic, but it really does revolve around, are you absorbing the training? And as we transition into masters athletes and older athletes, it's really fundamental. Like that if there's anything that people should be focusing on, it's not the training, it's the absorption. So what are you doing? It's all the other support mechanisms around your ability to recover, absorb, and get faster, fitter, stronger, or slow down less. And that at some point is the reality, So I know that in our culture, we want to like that there's I don't know, faster as a master, which is something I've been wanting to write about, right? That everyone can be faster as a master. And there's like, well, it really depends. It
Yeah.
depends on a lot of
How
things.
fast were you when
So
you were 30?
exactly. Were you training effectively when you were 30? A lot of people were not. So yeah. So the absorption, right? Like, and quite honestly, I get a lot of feedback after races when they didn't perform when as they wanted to, and all immediately, I need more speed work. I need more. I need more and more and more. And my response is like, well, okay, but how are we going to modify your baseline? How will you recover from that? And a lot of times it is, I need more speed work. I need more hill work. I need more hard work. And I'm not going to alter my career, my work life, my sleep, my nutrition. So I'm like, well, okay, well, I mean, please do tell me, how do you expect to recover from this and absorb the work? And there's often a blank stare. So yeah, the obsession with training and training more and training harder is very real across the board, I think.
Hmm. Well, and the thing is,
So
because there's legitimacy to that,
yes,
right? Like
yeah,
it is the case, like the people who train the most tend to be the
yes,
people who perform the best, especially like the longer the race gets. Like, so if the race
yes.
is long, then like there's no denying that people who train more tend to be the people who perform the best, like in those races. Then, like, I had an athlete ask me this too a couple weeks ago, and I actually wrote her back this whole long thing, and I was going to write a Substack about it. So now I might go back and just and use like that as the premise for it. You know, she's in her like late 40s now, and she was a really good athlete, like in her 20s and 30s. And then, like life takes over and like her life is different now than it was before. And, she is happy if she gets 6 hours of sleep at night. And, there's some, anxiety that happens at times that like, keeps her awake. We don't live in the same state anymore. So like, I don't know exactly, what her whole lifestyle looks like. It's, it's when she gets on a training roll, and she's really focused on training and like prioritizes training, we watch her get better. Like she has a lot of talent. And I think that's where maybe some frustration comes from, because she knows that, right? Like she knows deep inside that like I have athletic talent and it's not being expressed right now, right? Like, so she go out on a group ride and get her ass kicked and be like, and it's frustrating because she remembers like what it was
Hmm.
like when I wasn't getting
Yeah.
dropped every time there was a hill, and like, what do I need to do? And she's earnest in that. Like, what do I need to do to get back to like where I was before? Like, well, I don't know if like get back to where you were when you were 30 is realistic, but like, I'm going to take the premise of the question and say, and my response to her was largely along the lines of like, before you go try to do more training, because here's the thing, like, I haven't been giving her as much training as I used to give her. But the reason for that is because even the training that I'm giving her seems like it's really like the max that she's capable of absorbing because of the job and the
Hmm.
sleep cycles and the, all of that. And I know her well enough to know that like if I give you more, like it'll just be frustrating for you, because then there's going to be a lot of red on your calendar. Like you won't be able to do it. You'll feel like you're failing. So it's like, in order to, if you want to train more, which is a worthy goal, then like you have to be in a state where you can absorb that training, and that's health, right? So it comes down to like taking care of the things that make you healthy, and that's physical health, also mental health and emotional health,
Yep.
right? So like the sleep thing is absolutely non-negotiable. Like if you're not absorbing your training, where do I say, if you hear yourself, you're listening to this and you're like, I think that's me. I don't think I'm absorbing my training. Where do I start? Number one, and I would die on this hill, get 8 hours of sleep, figure it out,
Hmm.
go to bed.
Yeah.
And usually that's go to bed earlier, like
Oh yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing on Netflix that you should stay up till 10 p.m. watching, right? Like just come home from work, make your dinner, do your things, like put in the load of laundry, do whatever you need to do, clean the kitchen, but then like go to bed, stop watching Netflix, go to bed, stop scrolling, go to sleep, turn the
Hmm.
lights off.
Yeah.
It's just so easy. Anyway, like the sleep thing is number one. I say it's easy. I know it's not easy for all people, but like it's like start there. Once you're sleeping better, your mind is probably going to work better through the day, right? Which means you can then like plan ahead better. Maybe that opens up some space for you to like plan ahead with your meals, and like
Hmm.
when are you going to be eating, and making sure that you're like feeling and hydrating, properly. And so it's like getting yourself to a place where the health, like the platform of health, is in a place where you're able to benefit from the training you're doing. Like it has to start there. There's no negotiating on that.
Yep. Yep.
And if you're
I'd
not
say
going to start there, then like going out and riding more is just going to,
not
that's like
gonna.
just digging your hole deeper.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. I worked with a very smart, wise, very hardworking doctor a few years ago. We're on a little bit of a break right now, and I don't know if she listens to this or not. It took us a few years to figure out her optimal levels, and it took us, her. And I will just say this, like a lack of communication on her part in terms of the fatigue. My assumptions of, this was before tracking sleep, right? In
Hmm.
Training Peaks, I did request her to then start tracking her sleep in a note back before you could have, before this was before wearables, right? And like you could upload automatically. And there's a whole other, we've kind of covered wearables and like the caveats there. But the short of this is yeah, she would get up at like 3:30 in the morning to do her bike workouts. She had like an hour and a half to 2 hour commute. She'd work huge shifts, 10 hours, right? And we might do a short session. This is where we had to pull it back. Like there's no evening sessions. It's literally like if you have to be leaving for work at 6 a.m. and that means you have to do your workouts in the morning because and a lot of times it was uncertain when she would get home from work. Very stressful job. And so we had to learn through trial and error a little bit, and her showing up to a few races cooked, and it just flat. She never got injured. She never got in any kind of like, she did have some illnesses that I think probably were a result of excessive fatigue. But yeah, the short of it is, even though she wanted to train more, right? She couldn't absorb it in that job. And then it took her about a year to make a job change. And she quit that job and found a different medical institute to work for. And she could handle more training because she could sleep more. And so, but that's not, I applauded her for that decision. It was a hard decision. She had been with this company for like 25 years, really great benefits, really great pay. And it was literally crushing her ability to do what she wanted to do, which was, sleep more so she could train more. And so she made the hard decision to do what she needed to do. And a lot of athletes are not willing to do that, to literally
Hmm.
uproot their career. She's still a doctor, but uproot like their jobs, right? Finding a different job to be able to support their training and recovery. So yeah, absolutely. Sleep number one. I would say number two for me. And so when athletes want more, I'm like, okay, well, let's look at your sleep and let's, 8 hours minimum for me as well. And if they're struggling on 8 hours, if they're struggling to absorb the training and they're getting the sleep, then I look at nutrition, right? Like,
Yep.
are
Same.
you and most of the time it's either insufficient calories and or I'm going to just say, and I know this is a little bit contentious, but the quality of food they're eating, right? There's something lacking, either, maybe not enough protein, maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe I'm not a big supplement person, but like there's something that you're either eating or not eating, right? That's not helpful. So we got to figure out what's going to be helpful for you to be able to recover your muscles. A lot of times I would say nutrition is maybe even more impactful from a muscle damage, soreness
Hmm.
perspective than overall fatigue. But it can be impactful for overall fatigue too. When people start eating more, ultimately they're like, oh, I have more energy. Like, wow, yeah, it's amazing how that works, right? Like when you actually eat and eat good things and high quality things. So that's always my number two. And all the other stuff, like, oh, should I get more massage and sit in the boots more? And like, sure, if you have time, but you got to do those. Those things do not matter if you're not doing sleep and nutrition at all.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And then I feel like if there was a number three for me, because I'm in complete agreement, sleep, nutrition. Number three for me would be along the lines of executing your training properly.
Yeah.
And I know that
Yep.
you had just like written a whole article
Yeah.
about this too, have like,
Yeah.
you think you're in zone two, but you're not, you're in zone four. And that it is true. And so I feel like the athletes that I have worked with, the ones that struggle to hit pace and power on the key workouts that have been written in for the week, they are the same ones who overdo their easy sessions, right? Where like the easy session is just always just like a notch or two too challenging. And there's going to be ego involved in that. Like, I don't want to slow down. Feels easy, but it's like the easy meter is broken. Like their perception, they're calling it easy because in their mind they've decided that it's slow, and so that it must be the same thing.
Right.
And so, like, I'll counsel athletes a lot that like easy and slow are not the same thing, right? Just like hard and fast are not the same thing. So like when your fitness isn't as high as it could be, then easy tends to equal slow. But like you get some professional athletes who are like they can legitimately go easy and their pace is not slow. I mean, it's
Mhm.
relatively slower than they could be going. It's always going to be slower than you could be going.
Right.
But just like that, like what's your definition of slow? How are you
Yeah.
defining slow? And anyone who is obsessed with pace like that is going to have a hard time typically like slowing down. And if that's the case, and so your easy workouts are always moderate to hard, then it's like when it's time to do the key workout, and those are the ones that actually really do help you improve. Like once you recover, like if all you ever did was easy workouts, you're not likely to improve, right? But the easy workouts support the hard workouts, and the hard workouts, once you recover from them, that's how you're going to improve. And so, like taking the step back and going, okay, so that means the whole process is make sure your easy workouts are easy enough so that when you do your key workout, you have like the energy. And that's not just physical energy, but also mental energy. Cause I feel like sometimes it's like,
Mhm.
I mean, to hit the pace and power, you have to be really focused. You have to want to do it. You have to be able to like calmly and rationally and logically like talk yourself through what you're feeling so that you can like hold your form together and not start falling apart and
Mhm.
getting really sloppy, not getting mad at yourself. I mean, there's a lot that goes into executing a key workout properly. But then it's not just that. Then you have to go home and recover from that. So you make sure that you're feeling it right, that you're bringing your whole system down so you recover from it. And I feel like that lends itself into what we had mentioned in the beginning. We were going to talk about like the habits of the successful
Mhm.
athletes, right? And so when I think about the athletes that I've worked with over the years who have benefited greatly from the training that they are doing, they're the athletes that really pay attention, right?
Mhm.
So like they're paying attention to how they're feeling on their easy sessions, how they're feeling on their harder sessions. If they're watching heart rate and power and like looking at the data, that data should just be like tools to help them calibrate what the feeling, should
Mhm.
be, paying attention to what the breathing feels like and all that. Those athletes that pay attention to it, what they can then do is analyze the key workout that didn't go as well as they wanted it to, or like that we wanted it to, how it should have. Like, I thought I was going to be able to hit those watts, for 8 times 4 minutes, but I could only hit it for the first five. In the last three, I just totally lost it. So then it's like, okay, why is that? Well, it could be like, was the goal too hard, right? So like you were too high above threshold. And so like from the beginning, like the prescription wasn't right because, you're right. Or did you go a lot harder than I
Mhm.
prescribed because you thought that you could, and then you found out on number seven that like, oh, maybe I should have just stuck with the numbers the coach told me to do because like that's what was going to allow me to do it for all eight. Were you recovering long enough and easy enough between intervals? Were you fueled well enough, before and during that workout so that you had enough muscle glycogen to do it? Did you have a super stressful day at work? And so mentally you are focused on the thing that your coworker said to you that's still eating at you, and you feel like you're failing or underperforming in another area of your life that you aren't able to let go. And so you brought that with you into that workout. And
Mhm.
to me, and the reason I give all those examples is because like pick one. Like there's so many reasons
Yeah.
that that a key workout wouldn't go well. But I feel like also those athletes that are very aware, they're the same ones that are like, they're able to gauge the conditions and be like, it was exceptionally humid today. So even though like I wasn't able to hit the pace that I, thought I could have hit or that I would have been able to hit if the conditions were different or like not so brutal, I feel like what I did today was the best I could have done in these conditions. And therefore I'm going to call it a win, right? And like not
Mhm.
beat myself up over it. And so that's like the mature athlete mindset where they're able to really pay attention to all the variables that went into, and then maybe even diagnose for themselves. So like a lot of times that's our job, right? So like if you're the athlete, you're aware while you're doing the workout of like what's going well, what's not going well, then ideally you're writing those notes in to Training Peaks because like that's what helps your coach understand too, like what's going on. And we may see something. So even if you think that you've got it diagnosed for yourself, if you write those notes in for us, there's a possibility that we might just agree with you and be like, yeah, that was likely it. We might also have other insights that are more
Mhm.
objective. Sometimes it's hard to see like the forest for the trees, like when you're in it. And so we're looking long term. And like, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've been able to point out to an athlete like their long term growth, like the 3 months ago, so if they're beating themselves up over a workout, thinking that like, oh, it didn't go as well as I thought it should have, or blah, 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 whatever. And then I'm able to go like, yeah, but like in June, there's zero chance you would have been able to do this,
Mm,
right? So there's still like, we're still on an upward trajectory here, and like you're still performing better, or like look at the growth that you have,
mhm,
shown over the last couple of months. And sometimes I'll write back and be like, oh yeah, you're right. Like I was only comparing to like last week. I wasn't comparing to, 3 months ago. And it's like, sometimes that's our role, is to, but the writing notes part is super critical too. Not only for I mean, it is important for your coach, because like we're not there with you. So like we can't feel what you're feeling. So to understand your perspective and how you're looking at it is important for us to be able to help you more, but also just for yourself. If you're writing it in, and tell me if I'm, this is what I do. And so you can let me know, like, if I'm a unique bunny, I might be. But I write notes about every workout that I do, right? Like how it felt, right? And sometimes they're really minor. Like if it was an easy workout and it felt the way I should have been, like it was easy, check, fine, right? But sometimes when I'm doing the workout, I'm writing the notes in my head, right?
mm,
I'm thinking about like, how am I feeling? How is this going? What are the variables at play that are playing into like me doing well or me not like meeting my own expectations? And just the act of knowing that I'm going to write the notes
mhm.
makes me pay attention more during the session, which in and of itself is the benefit.
Yeah,
Not being just mindlessly doing the session and like not thinking about it at all, but paying attention so that I can write good notes later. There's benefit just in that practice.
yeah,
It's the awareness part that we talked about before.
yeah, yeah, I might not think while I'm in the session of what notes I will write, but, yeah, I always write. I've had a training log for, since I was in middle school probably. Training Peaks goes back to probably 2010. Whether I
Hmm.
had a coach, didn't have a coach, right? Like, always I mean, there might be sessions that I skipped, right, for some stupid reason, or I don't even know, but not many. I would say I, always wrote how it felt at least. And now Training Peaks makes it easy, right? Like you can give a little smiley face and a perceived effort after you upload your data, or even if you just manually put in like, oh, I did this for an hour. You're not even uploading your data. You can still put in your perceived effort. It's super easy. And then, yeah, certainly for workouts that there were any GI issues or bonking, or, always putting in like what I ate or what I didn't eat. And I'm lucky, knock on wood, that I don't have those issues, but a lot of athletes do have those issues. And so a coach can help problem solve that if you put in like, what you ate beforehand, what you ate during, what the issues were. I advise all my athletes that go over 90 minutes, because that's kind of the general trend of like when you're going to blow through your glycogen. And that's really assuming you're in zone two, really. If you got VO2 max for 90 minutes, like you should be having calories. So,
Nobody's doing VO2 max for 90 minutes without calories, even with calories. But
well,
yeah,
no, I mean like the session's 90 minutes, but you have VO2 max in the session. Yeah, no, nobody's doing
yeah.
VO2 max for 90 minutes. Yeah, no, comments, post-activity comments are super important. And, even if you miss a session as a coach, I'm just gonna put that plug in there. Why did you miss it? Is it because of your energy? Is it because you ran out of time? Was it poor planning? Did you not want to do it? Like, let your coach know why you missed the session. Like, not putting anything is not helpful
Yeah, because there's
for
a
the coach.
really big difference between like, I didn't do it because my kid was sick and I had to go to school and pick my kid up, right? And so like my whole day got interrupted. That's a totally different scenario than like, I didn't do it because I feel like there's a virus coming on, right? Or I didn't do it because I'm absolutely exhausted from the last three
Right,
days. Right.
right.
Because like, and the reason that's important is because the next step after that missed session, should you make it up or not? Well, it depends. Like, why did you miss it? Right. If you feel great and your energy is good, and the only reason you miss it is because like something logistically got in the way,
Mhm,
right? And so therefore you couldn't do it, but you have the energy, then like in that case, like maybe you do make it up,
right.
right? But if you're feeling sick or you're exhausted from the training because like the whole training load was too much and you weren't communicating how tired you actually were, then it's like, well, then we need to adjust the whole plan so that you're never really like digging
In
that
that dig,
deep.
yeah,
Right. Versus if it's like I'm getting sick, then it's like, okay, well, I don't need to then go back necessarily and adjust the plan because like everybody in the office has a virus and it went around and I got it. Right. So I feel like noting why you're missing workouts is important for the coach to understand if we are programming appropriately for you in this stage in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And, a lot of times, either when talking with new athletes or if I'm working with an athlete that we're going into a big build of some sort, I get the question like, well, what's your philosophy on recovery weeks or rest days or, what do you prescribe? Right. Like the assumption is that there's a general prescription that some coaches will, use. And my response is always, it depends, right? It depends on you and what your underlying health looks like, what your underlying life stress looks like, again, what your recovery looks like. And then, again, age probably does play a role. As we get older, we can't absorb as much. So we probably need to put rest in more frequently. So, but it really depends. And if you're not giving feedback on your sessions, then the coach won't know how fatigued you are. Or maybe maybe you're feeling great and you've done 2 big weeks and you're like, hey, I think I could do another one. And so that that's a fantastic opportunity, right? To push and potentially get you a little bit fitter for your race. But if you're not entering comments, then the coach won't know it. And then you're going to get a rest week before you really need one. So
I
yeah,
hated that when I was an athlete and I got a rest week when I didn't feel like I needed one. I was like, no, not yet. Like, I'm not tired enough yet. Like
right.
at some point, like, and I could have been right or wrong about that, but yeah, I have, there have been a couple of athletes, and this is like stereotypical, but like maybe you've seen like this pattern too, but like with young females who are on the smaller side, just like physically, like they're short, small in stature. And it might be because like it doesn't cost them as much energy to move their bodies because like they're just small, right? So it's just easier to do. So like their power isn't going to be as high on the bike. Like their top end power, like it just isn't going to be because it can't be because they don't have the ability to push what like the bigger guy can push. A pattern I've seen is that like those little smaller women tend to be able to take on a lot more work before they're like seriously in a hole versus like some of the bigger guys that I'll work with who will get tired like really quickly and easily. And the reason that that's important to know is because like, well, like for that younger gal, if I'm watching her training and like she's still like felt great, and like and I'm looking at like the heart rate and the power and the pace and like everything's check, 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 and she's saying she feels good and on the file looks good, then like I'm not like I'll give an easier day here and there, but like I'm not going to go a full on rest week just because it's week 2 or 3 for her.
Right.
Like if
Right.
she's still on a roll, like we're going with it. But like with the guy, it's like if I know that, okay, you know what, if we keep pushing through here, the hole he's going to dig is going to take us a longer time to get out of than we want to. I might give like a preemptive rest day and be like, look, you know what, you just did like 3 bigger days in a row. So today, just a choice 2K swim and call it good. Like no effort on that. Just like work on stroke technique stuff or whatever. Um, and even if he doesn't feel that tired yet, like on that fourth day, it's like, well, because I want day 5 and 6 to be good. So like taking this easy day now is going to help that later. And again, that goes right back into what we were talking about, absorbing the training, right? Like we're trying to set you up so that on the key day, you can hit the pace and power and absorb that training and have it go better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, that's
Absolutely.
just a pattern and trend I've seen. I like it when I can see an athlete who's just like, I'm like, I can't even hurt this one. Like, what if I like, she will
Uh,
not get tired.
I don't, not, interestingly, well, so I don't try to think of athletes. I'm sure I have worked with athletes in that profile, and you might be right. I don't have quite as much data there, maybe a couple, but what I have a lot of data on is actually not being fatigued from the training, but being fatigued from life. And I have a lot of athletes that, they've just got a lot going on and they've got stressful lives. And a lot of times that determines when we have to rest. And they hate that, right? Because it forces us to accept that there are things outside our training that we are influencing us, whether it's big job changes, whether it's divorce, whether it's loss of parents, right? It's kids being sick, whatever it might be. A lot of times I will build semi rest weeks around athlete travel, right? That they have work travel and they know they're not going to be able to get in the same volume. So we might have to tweak stuff. It's like maybe we can't do a full 3 week build, right? But we'll do like two weeks and a moderate week and then go into a rest week when they're traveling, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that very clearly influences how much training you can absorb is outside training stress. So yeah, and again, we have to accept that or we have to change it. There's two options really. And we can moderate and like do our best, working with a coach, right? To help I mean, a coach's job is to help you figure out what's going to work for you, right? They may have philosophies, right? Michelle and I have philosophies around, proper training and how we would, modalities and what works. But ultimately, it's like applying that in a way that's going to work for the athlete and in their life as it is currently. Hopefully, maybe the stress will change down the road. Maybe it'll get better. Maybe it gets worse, right? And so you're always evolving, the training stressors to get the most out of yourself in that moment, right? In whatever stage of life you're in. So yeah, it matters. That's what
Yeah.
I guess I'm going. And a lot of times, and I don't know how you do this with your athletes, but for my athletes and always the way I've coached, and now training peaks, you can drop in notes, right? Like, so an athlete can say, I've got only 2 hours today, or I've got no time today, or I need a day off. Before they had notes, the note capability, I always dropped in commitment tab on Mondays. And that's where the athlete would communicate to me. And I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And like, they'd write in like what either preferences are, like masters on Tuesday, Thursday, or they'd write in Monday, all work meeting, can't work out, or I can do a big day on a Wednesday, right? That's where they would communicate to me what they could do on the week. And that would vary, depending on what they had going on. And I kid you not, like getting people to fill out commitments is like pulling teeth. I just did a breakdown recently of like, you know, what do who is entering commitments? And it was pretty eye opening. Like it's not very many of my athletes that are writing commitments. And I know other coaches will, I mean, I won't name any names, but what is it? How do I want to phrase this? Like coaches, a business coaching, like how to develop your coaching business group thing. And they had an expert on that basically said you should streamline all your schedules so that everyone's doing swims on Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever it might be. Everyone's doing track on Thursday. Everyone's doing, and you're basically applying a very similar structure to every single athlete. And I was like, I've never done that. And I will never do that because it will not work. Right. Like, I don't know. So do you do that? I'm sure you probably take into consideration like what your athletes have going on and when they can train and what they can do. Right. I mean, whether
Yeah.
have, yeah.
Yeah,
I think
usually what I
yeah.
do, like my process on that is it like, especially when a new athlete comes on board, like in their initial paperwork, it's like, give me like a basic week that you think that, because most of the time, like they've been training some on their own. So it's kind of like, what are you used to? What group workouts do you like to jump into? What are we working around? And, so they'll tell me, here's my time available, or like, this is what I have. The master's group I swim with on Tuesday, Thursdays, or whatever, right? And then like, so I write myself a little note, like in
Mm,
the coach's notes, like where I use those coach's notes a lot. And so I write down like what their basic week schedule is. And then my instruction to them is like, I'm going to work off this basic work week for you, just structure wise, and then I'll write in the details. And then your job is when something is changing about it, and it could change in either way. It could change. I'm traveling, and so I'm going to have less time available, or my boss is coming into town, and so I'm going to have less time available, or it's a holiday week. This week I have more time available.
mhm.
Let me know what those things are, and then I will modify the training accordingly. But it's funny because sometimes an athlete will come to me and they have like their thought about, and this is a lot like with swimming, right? Where they just like, they only want to swim twice a week or whatever. And like, I really want them to swim 3 times a week, depending on their goals. But like, if they want to get better at swimming, like I just think 3 times a week is mandatory.
Mhm.
And so in the back of my head, I'm not telling them this, I'm telling you this. So if you're listening, now you'll know my secrets. But like, I'm always thinking like, okay, where can I sneak in the third swim, right? Like, I'm just going to start scheduling it in there, not every week, but like every other week until they kind of get used to it. And then before we know it, they're swimming 3 times a week and it's just normal for them. And so I'm like so like, I will do like little things to
Yeah, little
like
tweaks. Yeah.
manipulate what they think they want to do. So it looks like closer to what I want them to do over time. I don't do it on week 1. It's like more like in month 3, but it's like, you have to, it's because everything is relative, right? So like if they've been swimming once a week, then swimming twice a week is a lot.
Right.
But later at some point you're going to swim 3 times a week, or just like trying to fit in the frequency, or like I'm trying to get another run in. It's like, just do this 15-minute jog off the bike and that'll count as like the 4th run, which I want you to have 4 touches on the run this week, just for
Yeah.
frequency. So I'll do stuff like that, trying to get them to do maybe more than they want if it looks like they're
Yeah.
adapting to the
Yeah.
training.
But I think this is great advice and experience, right? In terms of why athletes, it might be beneficial, right? If you are an athlete that you're maybe not making progress and you've been using a lot of stock plans, for example, right? Stock plans are based off of very generalized physiology assumptions and that everyone's week is fairly the same. And so I know they're better and probably worse stock plans, but it might be the case where working with someone one-on-one, right, that can help you better understand like where you can fit things in and how to adjust the schedule would be really beneficial because, then you can more appropriately, smarter programming for your schedule by working with someone that can help you figure out where you can get some. I hate to use the word optimization, but that's kind of what it is, right? Like where can we get a little bit more in without impacting you to the point where you're overly fatigued and unable to absorb the training. Yeah. And if you are in a situation, right, where you are not sleeping and you're I mean, so sleep is tough, right? Especially if you got young kids. So then what's the situation? What do you tell an athlete, right? That just is like, hey coach, I just, 6 hours is what I can get in right now consistently. But I want to get faster. What would you say to that athlete, And let's
I'd be
assume
like, pick
they're
a sport. You know what I mean? Like it would
right.
literally be like, pick which sport do you want to get faster at, right? I mean, because like we're not likely to get faster at all three if you're not sleeping because you've got two young kids at home. So then it's like, well, do you want to prioritize like, this one or that one, or can we like put the bike on hold for now and really just like, swim and run? Or maybe biking is the easiest thing because you have a trainer at home and so you can sneak in those workouts, like more frequently or whatever. But I never push back on an athlete who says that they slept in and skipped a workout
Me
if
too.
they
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
especially when it's like they know they need more sleep. Like I needed more sleep today. And actually do have an athlete who frequently writes in, I slept in today. Like I woke up, my body needed the sleep. And like I trust her. I know that she knows her body. Right. And so I'm not going to be like, oh, well, like you're not going to get faster if you don't get up at 3:30 in the morning. It's like, no, like you have two little kids. Sleep in when
When they allow
you
you
need to.
to.
But then
Yeah.
my job becomes managing her mentally and emotionally when she's not getting faster.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Comes like that my job like shifts to that like let's be realistic and like yeah you're probably not going to be as fast as you were before you had two kids if you don't have the time to train, and it's really unfair to compare like where you're at now with where you were 10 years ago when your whole life is different.
Right. Absolutely. The
Yeah.
acceptance and what I often, depending on the athlete and where they're at, like it's not that you have to give up on the goals, right? Or the desires that you have, but the timeline may have to shift, right? Like you can't make as fast as progress if you cannot get the training in, the recovery in, the absorption in, right? Or you can't get the training in because you can't absorb it, So then we have to, like, yeah, Michelle said, you either giving something up or just we have to kind of come to terms, right? With again, if anything, it's like just embrace the process, right? You can still do the things. You might not be able to do as much as the things you want to do. Maybe you want to train longer hours, but you just can't. Enjoy what you have right now and embrace what control what you can and let go of what you can't. Letting go, maybe that's the key here, right? Of you got to let go of some of the gripping of the desires that you want for yourself in terms of podiums or paces or power
Mhm.
or finishing places, but you can still do the thing and you can still get really good at doing the thing. It may just take a little bit longer if you're not able to, you know, prioritize.
Or it's like find something else to like about it that doesn't
Right.
involve like like that pace or
Yeah.
whatever. So like let's finish with this. We've been going for
Yeah.
like an hour.
Yeah.
And let's finish with this. And this is like people can follow along if they want because I have a little dilemma right now. And so if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to show you my blank wrist here. You
Um,
see the tan line there? Okay, so yesterday when I was swimming the rough water swim, like it's a running beach start, mass start, and it's aggressive. I mean, these are fast, aggressive swimmers. Like it was the most boxing match that like I haven't been in a boxing match like that in a long time. And I felt my Garmin get kicked off or pulled off or
mm,
whatever. Like I just felt it like my wrist was free. And I was like, oh, there it goes. And
oh,
Carly, if you're listening, I know that when that happened to you in Waimea Bay, like you saw it and you caught it and you like, so this happened to one of my athletes. She's like, my
okay.
watch fell off, but like I saw it and I caught it and I put it in my suit and I kept going. But like at this start, like the water is super murky and like there were just hundreds of people around and it was a mosh pit boxing match. And I was like, there's no chance that even if the water was clear, I might have like really tried. I was like, the water's not even clear, and
Yeah.
it's enough
Behind
white
you.
water behind me.
Yeah.
So I was like, and so then I spent the next, like, I don't know, 10 minutes probably, right? Like while I'm still swimming and like trying to get myself in a groove, being like, boy, this is an expensive swim.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be
And
my
then,
thought.
and then I was like, wait, what if I didn't get a watch? What if I didn't get a new one?
Mm,
You know what I mean? And I gave myself the what if I didn't? What, you know, like, I mean, for a long time, I swam without a
yeah.
Garmin. Right.
Yeah.
And like I used a pace clock and like, so there isn't a pace clock in my pool, but I did buy a pace clock, like a little mini digital one back when my eyes started going bad and I couldn't see my Garmin anymore. I bought this pace clock digital one because I thought maybe that'll help. But the reality was I couldn't even see the digital thing. So like I only tried it once and I couldn't use it and then I put it away. But I remembered like during the rough water swim yesterday, I was like, "Oh, I have that digital clock. Like maybe I could just use that." I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll go back to like a Timex Ironman, like the one that
Yeah.
doesn't even do GPS and it just like has the time on it. And that way I could like time things. Like, do I really need to know like how long I went? Like, I'm like, maybe I don't even need to know. Like, maybe it's fine and I can just try it. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do, right? Like, if I'm going to get a new watch, I might get like a Koros. I did a little
Mhm.
research on them yesterday afternoon. So I'm like, I just can't justify spending like
I
$400 on a
know, it's
Garmin
insane.
when
I
it's just
know.
like I'm not even using power on my bike outside anymore. It's like so it's like I can power on an indoor trainer, but I don't need a Garmin for that. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I can swim with my like little pace clock and call that good and just like write it in. And with biking, like I mean, I ride outside maybe once a week. Like I don't know, do I need to know how long I went? Like I don't know. So anyway, I'm very much contemplating like what happens if I don't track myself. And so I think I'm going to try it for a little bit and then see, right? And see and I feel like it could go one of two ways. And so if you're like in a boat like me or like you're thinking about this or whatever, because you know, it's either that I stop tracking myself and I start getting lazy and skipping things
Mm.
and right, maybe, right? I mean, it's an
Yeah, right.
option, right?
It's an option.
It's a possibility, and that's the scary part, right? Is that if I don't track myself, am I gonna like take the easy way out or start skipping stuff, right? Because it's not going to be recorded. Or if it's not going to be recorded, does it free me up to just execute the way that I'm supposed to execute? And like if I don't always see like the times, like do I just stop beating myself up about it and then just like execute appropriately and call it good? And so I'll share with you this morning, like right before this podcast, I was at the pool swimming and I did. It was kind of fun because I brought my digital clock out and I can see it now, you know, like on the deck, and I don't have a watch. Like it was so weird. So like I'm not pushing start and stop like the start and finish at every lap. But you know what that meant is that I could get like a cleaner start and finish of
Mm,
every one of my intervals, right? Like I did it like the way that a swimmer would do it, pushing off the wall, finishing at the wall, not, you know, reaching for my wrist to like push lap.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I was like doing swimmer's math, right? Like with the send offs and the intervals because it was like straight off the digital clock. So it wasn't like on your Garmin, if you say I'm going to do 100s off 145, then every time it resets and you just see the 145 come up. But if you're doing 100s off like 145 on a digital clock, it's like, well, I'm going to go off the top and then the 45 and then the
Oh, yeah.
30 and then the 50, right. And so like I did a set on purpose that was like with variable intervals. So I kept my brain busy the whole time trying to figure out like, okay, I'll go on the 15 and then I'll go on the, you know, whatever. And it made the steps fly by. I absolutely loved it. I wasn't even really keeping track of my blitz, but more like just making sure that I came in with like the appropriate effort and was able to go off the next time, you know, I just like make the send off kind of thing. It was like, it reminded me of like how I used to swim train. And like the reality is, the strongest I ever was on the bike is before I got a power meter. And the fastest swimmer I was is before I started swimming with a Garmin. And yet somehow my brain has been like manipulated to believe that I have to have all this data in order to get faster. And
Right,
now
and
it's
it's
like
not
I
true.
actually have an opportunity, a really good opportunity to try and see what happens because I don't have a watch.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
Um,
not even like, yeah, I have to make a choice. It's
right.
like the only choice I'm making is to not spend the money to buy a new one.
Right.
Versus if you already have a watch, it's really hard to not use it.
I don't well, so I've never swum with a Garmin unless it's, open water swim training or in a race. No, actually, I don't think I ever won a race. I swam what I was gonna swim, and then
Mm.
it was on my bike. tell my athletes that I don't want them to swim with a watch. I don't want them messing with it. I don't care. I won't look at your swim data in the pool. I just literally do not care.
I do.
I,
If
I,
an athlete knows how to push lap on theirs, I will totally look at it, and yeah, I will.
well, I want them to use the clock. If they don't have a clock and they need some pace thing, then I say fine, use your watch. But I will only look at outdoor swim data. I mean, I when I swam masters, Jane Scott would force people to take your watch. She would take watches and throw them. I mean, like I was pretty hardcore and like no watches, right? And get the feel for the water and use the clock and learn how to be a swimmer, like a real swimmer. And that's how you be the best triathlete swimmer. So that's been my philosophy. And, I won't get mad if people want to wear their data because they want to see the data, but I just would rather know, like, are you leaving on the in 2 minutes? You leaving on 1:30? How'd that feel? I don't really
Mhm.
want to look at the data, which is interesting because I'm more of a data person, right? I'm more of a data coach. But then I was going to also say, so I've never swum with my Garmin, but I think it was 2020. It was about COVID. I was tackling my focus was running and strength workout, and I wanted to do my I should write about this too. My failed 20 by 20. Did Lucio ever tell you about this? 20
20
a
weeks of
20
20
miler,
milers?
20
Yeah, yeah,
20 weeks
yeah.
of 20 miles.
Yeah,
And I
I
want to do it in
remember that.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a Lucho thing. And I was like, I think I want to do that. So I was doing a lot of run volume. And in that, I was like, I also think I want to run with my Timex again. And so for everything but my 20, so I did take my watches on my 20 milers because I was doing fun loops and I wanted to see my loop. And but I'd never had any like heart rate pace. I might have had heart rate on there, but I mostly had elevation gain because I was planning out some big mountain runs. So these were not like flat 20 miles. I had to, well, full disclosure, I only made it to 18 because I ended up with a knee issue. So that's a real bummer. But my stipulation was like they had to be done above 7,500 feet and they mostly had to be done off road. So I was looking at trails and doing big mountain runs. So it was kind of a fun improv, right? Like thing to do.
Yeah,
I have a
yeah.
lot of thoughts about it, but running with a Timex, right? Like all my other runs during the week were always done with a Timex, and I just uploaded I mean, I was doing routes that I knew, right? Like I'd run these routes for
Mhm.
15 years, and so I would just run with Timex. Yeah, it took about 110, 120, 45, and it was about 4 miles, and that's what I uploaded to Training Peaks, and that was really fun. And so at this point,
Yeah.
that's what I would do now, like where I'm at, like I hike with my dogs with tracking collars now with the Garmin Alpha device. And so I actually have our routes already tracked. So I don't even know. I do wear my watch to track our routes, but I'm kind of dual. Like I guess the tracking devices don't upload to Training Peaks. So I can't like get online and look at our routes. I have to go to the device and upload it to some other um server. But yeah, it's I don't know if I would replace my Garmin if it broke, and I commonly run without it even now, right? Like
Yeah.
it's really freeing, and I mean I did write a
Freeing is the
Substack.
word. Like,
Yeah,
freeing
freeing.
is the word.
Yeah,
Like it's freeing.
yeah,
And like I'm actually genuinely interested in how I respond
yeah,
to like not tracking,
yeah.
data for a while. And like I kind of think that I'll be fine with it. Like I actually really think that like, and not even just fine, I think I might actually be better.
Hmm.
But again, I will say, like, from a coach's standpoint, that's hard for me because I do look at swim files, like, and I try to teach athletes to learn how to use the lap button, push the lap button,
Oh,
so that because that allows me to be able to see, like what their paces are and that kind of thing. And I like that, but I also know that it's totally possible to do it without. It's more of like a habit that's ingrained in my head, and like somehow like I've come to believe that we need to have the data in order to get better. And I'm actually like, that's not true.
yeah.
So
Well,
anyways,
this will be
I'll
a
let you
good.
know how my little
Yeah,
project goes with like
yeah.
not swimming with a Garmin and see how it works. I'm genuinely like thinking I might just go get a $20 Timex watch and
I'd do it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Be fun. We'll check in on it next time. So
yeah.
awesome. Well, it's great to
I'll let you know.
chat with you, Michelle, as always, and
Yeah,
we
you
will be
too.
back. If you guys listening have topics for us, please reach out. You've got our info, and we'd love to, tackle some topics that you've got or some questions. So we will chat with you next time, Michelle.
Yeah, take care.